Did the Seattle Seahawks play it right by potentially getting worse at quarterback? I think they did. Let me tell you why. I'm Kyle Krabs with A to Z Sports, and John Schneider and the Seattle Seahawks are taking the bet that lightning is willing to strike potentially 3 times in the same place in the Pacific Northwest with this ambitious quarterback transition that is underway with the Seahawks. Seattle, of course, traded Geno Smith this offseason to the Las Vegas Raiders after he was a successful heir to the position from Russell Wilson. Now it's Sam Darnold's term, and Schneider, in an interview with Mike Silver of The Athletic, pointed to the parallels of what Geno Smith endured before reaching Seattle and had his opportunity to start to that of Darnold, as guys who were highly coveted for their raw throwing ability and then needed reps and time. Here's what Schneider had to say explicitly about the parallels between the two. I do see Darnold as ascending because, well, the experience we had with Geno would tell us that. These guys need reps, and he's got a ton in 2024. The undercurrent from the league going into last season was that he had kind of turned the corner, and then the evidence was there. What's interesting about this move for Seattle is it is a risk in my mind. I do not think Sam Darnold is on the same tier as Geno Smith as a quarterback, but the risk is outweighed in some ways based off of the long-term reward. Geno Smith is set to turn 35 years old this fall, where Sam Darnold is just 28. So you now have potential longevity with this transition. And Geno Smith got a much more handsome contract with his new deal with the Raiders than what Sam Darnold got, even though Sam Darnold technically got $100 million in free agency. This is why the fine print on these contracts is always important. Sam Darnold got $37.5 million guaranteed at signing, and it's all compensation for 2025. Seattle, if they really like Jalen Milroe, who they drafted in the 3rd round, or if they see somebody else in free agency next year that they really want, they can simply cut Sam Darnold by the 5th day of the waiver period in 2026 and not owe him another cent. It's going to add up to about $25 million in dead cap, but in the grand scheme of salary cap management, that's a very easily digestible pill to swallow. Geno Smith in Las Vegas, despite being the older player, and admittedly, in my mind, the better player, he got more than $20 million more guaranteed at signing than what Sam Darnold did. So they've hedged while also drafting a day 2 quarterback to be put into the fray. And consider John Schneider's experience in having success at this kind of strategy at the quarterback position. Their Super Bowl run was spurred by hitting on a day 2 quarterback in Russell Wilson. And then they transitioned away from Russell Wilson and cashed in for a bunch of draft picks and had somebody in the pipe in Geno Smith who proved he was ready to go. That's the big difference between the Smith transition and the Sam Darnold transition. Is Sam Darnold, you have not had in-house for several years for proof of concept of how he runs within your system. And that's where the big bet takes place. And that's why it's necessary for you to hedge against it potentially not working out. But again, Seattle already now has a young quarterback in the pipe with all the physical talent in the world in Jalen Milroe. And that's another way that this can pay off for Seattle in time. It's the kind of strategy at the most important position in the game that probably 3/4 of executives across the league would not be given the leash to be able to try to execute, at least not without firmly parking themselves on the hot seat and it being hyper criticized every time the quarterback makes a bad play. But John Schneider has had this on his resume, and he's a long tenured general manager that you just don't simply see a lot of executives get this kind of time. And when you get this kind of time and you win, it builds trust that you will figure it out. And if Schneider figures this one out, he's going to have to write a book because it would be an unprecedented run of quality play at the quarterback position with untraditional methods consistently of finding the answer. So I will have my eyes firmly on Sam Darnold in Seattle because if Schneider's right this time, he may have really struck gold.